Well, for more on the story, we're joined now by Miko Peled. He's a human rights activist and the author of the book, The General's Son. Really good to have you with us, Miko. Can I start by getting your initial reaction to the fact that it seems that the phase one of the ceasefire deal has been upheld with the latest exchange of hostages and prisoners. How hopeful are you that we will, in fact, progress to the second phase of the deal?
Well, I think the best judges of whether or not the first phase has been met, the conditions have been met, are the Palestinians, and the Palestinians are the best judges of that. I mean, they're the Palestinians in Gaza have been subjected to genocide for far too long. Palestinian prisoners in Israeli prisons have been languishing for decades. And so whether or not the conditions are being met is for them to determine. Now, I don't think it's any secret that the Israeli government has done everything they possibly can to make this more difficult. The state of Israel has a history of violating agreements. And so I don't think it's any surprise that there's probably going to be, that there are already violations and will be more violations. Again, I defer to what the Palestinians are saying on this, since they're the ones who are on the receiving end of all of this pain and suffering. And again, one would hope that, I mean, really, this all could have been done. I think that's the most important point here. This all could have been done a year and a half ago without all the killing and the death and destruction. Whether or not the Israeli government decides to come through with the second phase is anybody's guess. On the one hand, you've got Donald Trump, the new president here in Washington, promising some kind of a massive ethnic cleansing campaign of over 2 million people. You have elements within the Israeli government themselves that are demanding a return to the genocide in Gaza, the continuation of the genocide, including large segments of Israeli society, by the way, and the press, pressuring very, very hard to continue with the genocide, criticizing the government for allowing any humanitarian aid, and so forth. So it's anybody's guess, but I would say that we need to look at the big picture here, and that the demands by the international community have to be much larger. And the Gaza Strip, which is really a huge concentration camp, has to be dismantled, and Palestinians should be given the freedom to travel, the freedom to access everything that they need, which exists in abundance right outside the concentration camp, right outside the gates and the walls of the concentration camp. Everything exists in abundance. And so why are they being denied all of these resources is, I think, the question that needs to be answered.
Miko, can I ask you a bit about your background? Because your grandfather signed Israel's Declaration of Independence. Your father fought in the Arab-Israeli War of 1948 and was a general in the Six-Day War. How then did you come to question the way that Israel has conducted itself since becoming a nation?
Well, that's a very good question. You know, being raised on the Israeli side of this equation, on the privileged side of the apartheid state, of course, you don't have access to the kind of information that you need to make to really understand and to develop informed positions on this issue. It wasn't until I actually took the step into the Palestine side of Palestine, outside the bubble of the apartheid, of the privilege sphere of the apartheid state, which is where, of course, Israelis exist. It wasn't until then that I was able to be aware of what was going on. So it's just a question of having access. In my case, it was a question of having access to the information, and then realizing, well, what the state of Israel, or actually the existence of the state of Israel in and of itself, is a violation of international law. It's a violation of the rights of the Palestinians and so forth. And then everything that followed since the establishment of the State of Israel was one long, horrendous crime against the Palestinian people. So in my case, it was a question of having access to the information. I think the problem with Israeli society by and large is today the information exists, but the indoctrination to racism, the indoctrination to hate Palestinians is so deep and so effective that even today, as we see these horrors take place in the Gaza Strip and in the West Bank and in other parts of Palestine, in the Nakab and in Jerusalem and so forth, people are by and large unmoved at best, and at worst support the ongoing genocide and the ongoing ethnic cleansing. So right now, I'll just finish the answer by saying right now, I'm here in Washington, D.C., running this organization called Palestine House of Freedom. We're 3 blocks away from the U.S. Capitol. And it's imperative that the information that I was able to be exposed to once I actually stepped into the Palestinian part of Palestine and began to form a relationship with Palestinians, that information is made accessible to decision makers here in Washington, D.C., and this is where decisions are made on Palestine.
Okay, Miko Peled, we will have to leave it there, but thank you very much for joining us on the program.